Have you ever stopped to think that maybe everything you love and will disappear? Your home, your body, your memories, even the people you care most about. Everything. What if I told you that the biggest reason for your suffering is the simple fact that you forget about it every day? We live as if life were guaranteed, as if nothing would change. But the truth? Everything changes. Everything passes. Everything dies. And the more we try to hold on, the more it hurts. This video will show you, with the wisdom of Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche, why the only real way to live in peace is to truly understand that everything is impermanent. But don't worry, this isn't something sad. It's what can set you free. And by the end of this video, you will never look at life the same way again. Nothing lasts forever, and that's liberating. Have you ever noticed how everything that once made you smile is gone too? Childhood has passed, some friendships have been lost, that sense of security has evaporated, and even your own body today is no longer the same. Still, we live as if nothing will change, as if the ground won't disappear from under our feet. But when life shows its true face, constant change, we become frightened, resist, and suffer. But it was Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche who invited us to see this process through different eyes. Impermanence is not a curse, it is a calling. A call to live with more presence, more awareness, and less illusion. Accepting that nothing lasts forever may seem harsh, but that is where liberation begins. When you understand that everything will pass, including pain, fear, even anxiety, you breathe differently. You live differently. Pain arises when we forget that everything is transitory. We create unrealistic expectations of stability in a world that never stops changing. And then, any loss becomes a tragedy. Any change, a nightmare. But what Chagdud teaches us is simple and profound. Suffering comes from clinging to the illusion of permanence. As long as we insist on seeing the world as fixed, we will be hurt by it. A sandcastle may be beautiful, it may bring joy, but it is sand. When the wave comes, and it always does, what remains is our relationship with what has been shattered. That is where freedom lies. When you don't demand that something last forever, you begin to appreciate it more while it is there. Presence gains strength, gratitude expands, and pain dissolves more quickly. The ordinary mind rejects the idea of an end. It wants to immortalize people, moments, sensations. And so we get caught in a mad rush, trying to freeze what is by nature fluid. What Rinpoche proposes is not coldness, not apathy, but lucidity. He doesn't tell you to stop loving or caring, but rather to love consciously. Be with someone knowing that one day this moment will end. And that's what makes it valuable. It's like savoring a ripe fruit knowing it won't be there tomorrow. It's not sad, it's precious. Impermanence gives life its flavor because it reminds us of the scarcity of the present. The present literally becomes the present. When we accept impermanence as an unquestionable truth, something changes inside. The urge to be right diminishes. The weight of sorrows loses its strength. The rush to conquer, to hold on, to maintain, all of this fades away. And in its place emerges a lighter, quieter, more peaceful mind. It's as if you finally understand that you're just passing through, and that changes everything. It changes the way you look at others. It changes the way you look at yourself. Nothing lasts forever, and that is one of the greatest blessings we can receive. Because it's only when something can end that it truly begins to matter. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and leave your like too. Attachment is the invisible thief of peace. Attachment is subtle. It doesn't scream. It doesn't knock on the door. It infiltrates. It takes root in our relationships, our dreams, our routines. By the time we realize it, we're already panicking at the mere thought of losing something. A person, a status, a right way for things to happen. And worst of all, we confuse attachment with love, with care, with commitment. But Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche warns us, attachment is not love. Attachment is fear in disguise. It's the fear of being without, the fear of loss, the fear of suffering. And it's precisely this fear that fuels suffering. As long as we're attached, we'll never be at peace. Because the mind that clings is the same mind that lives in fear of letting go. We live in a society that romanticizes attachment. Phrases like, "I can't live without you," or "this opportunity means everything to me," seem to demonstrate intensity, but they're actually cries of desperation disguised as affection. Attachment creates imprisonment. You begin to measure your happiness by the permanence of what you love. And any sign of change becomes a trigger for pain. But Buddhist teaching is clear. Everything that is born dies. Everything that begins ends. So why do we keep trying to eternalize what by its very nature is temporary? It's because we confuse the value of things with their duration. We think something is only valuable if it lasts forever, and this imprisons us. Chagdud doesn't speak of detachment as denial or contempt. He speaks of inner freedom, of loving without dependence, of being with someone without being trapped by the idea that this presence has to last. And this, in practice, is an enormous challenge. Because attachment hides in the details, in that fear of moving to a new city, in that panic when something gets out of control, in that anxiety of wanting everything to work out our way. And the more attached we are, the more fragile we become. Because everything, absolutely everything, can change at any moment. And when it changes, as it always does, we suffer, not for what we've lost, but for the attachment to what we thought wouldn't change. If we want to experience true peace, we need to face attachment head-on, recognize where it hides, name it, and begin to let go little by little. It's not about becoming cold. It's about stopping conditioning your joy on the permanence of something. When you realize that you can be happy even when things change, you become invincible. Freedom is born from lightness, and lightness is born from the wisdom of knowing how to let go. Attachment is the invisible thief of peace, and when we banish it, we can finally breathe in peace. Anger doesn't live anywhere. Have you ever wondered exactly where anger is when it explodes within you? Where does it hide before it arises? Does it have a fixed place, a form, a color? These questions, which may seem philosophical, were posed by masters like Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche, not to confuse, but to liberate. Because when you truly look within, at the very moment anger takes hold, you realize something surprising. She doesn't live anywhere. Anger has no address. It appears like thunder in a clear sky and disappears just as quickly, as long as you don't feed it. But what we do, almost always, is the opposite. We give it a platform, a voice, and space to grow. We believe it has a reason to exist, that it is legitimate, that it protects us, and so we make it a permanent resident of our minds. Anger seems solid. It seems justified. Someone offends us, something goes wrong, an expectation isn't met, and there it is, burning inside. But what Chagdud teaches us is that this anger only has power because we nurture it. We give it an identity. We allow ourselves to be dominated by an emotion that deep down is as insubstantial as the wind. When you look anger directly in the eye, without judgment, without fear, without the intention of repressing it, it begins to dissolve. Because you understand that it isn't you. It isn't a fixed part of your identity. It's just a visitor. And every visitor, no matter how loud, eventually leaves. The question is, will you feed it or just watch it disappear? The secret lies in pausing. When anger arises, the mind wants to act. It wants to retaliate, scream, accuse, attack. But if you create a second of awareness, a tiny space between emotion and reaction, something magical happens. You observe. And in that observation, clarity emerges. Chagdud taught that this moment of attention is the beginning of wisdom. It's not about never feeling anger. That's impossible. It's about not being a slave to it. It's about looking at this burning energy and asking, what is this? What is it trying to show me? And what you discover almost always is that behind the anger lies pain, fear, frustration. Anger is the cry of a wound that has not yet been met with compassion. And when you don't react immediately, when you allow anger to reveal itself and dissolve, you realize it had no home. It had no basis. It only existed as long as you held it. And instead of leaving a trail of destruction, you create a space of peace, a space where wisdom can enter, where compassion can flourish. This is the power of a trained mind, a mind that recognizes the impermanence of emotions and refuses to be dragged down by them. Because ultimately anger doesn't live anywhere, and you don't need to live there either. 4. When everything falls apart, what's left? There comes a time in life when everything seems to fall apart. The relationship ends, the job disappears, health fails, certainties turn to dust, and in that moment, when everything that sustained you disappears, what's left? It's in this abyss that many people go mad, but it's also in this abyss that some awaken. Because when everything falls apart, there's nowhere left to hide. There are no more excuses, distractions, or attachments to mask the truth. And the truth, according to Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche, is that the essence of being cannot be destroyed. What collapses are the constructions, the illusions, the stories. But what remains is what was always there, even when you didn't realize it. Pure consciousness, inner silence, the possibility of starting over. The pain of falling is real. We're not talking about denying suffering here, but rather about going through it with open eyes. When everything falls apart, you have the chance to see what really matters, because much of our lives are built on fragile things: status, control, predictability, emotional security. And when these pillars fall, it feels like we've lost everything. But that's precisely when what's indestructible is revealed: your value as a human being, your capacity to love, your connection to something greater. The void that remains doesn't have to be terrifying. It can be fertile. It can be the beginning of a more honest, freer, more conscious reconstruction. Many of us only awaken when the ground disappears. It's as if suffering lays bare what comfort has hidden for years. And what Rinpoche shows us is that suffering is a master in disguise. He breaks our armor. He teaches us to let go. He pushes us, even against our will, to a place of greater truth. And in that place, even amidst the rubble, there is light, there is peace. Not that superficial peace that depends on everything being fine, but the peace that arises from contact with raw reality. The reality where everything changes, everything passes, and yet something remains. The consciousness that observes, the heart that insists on loving. When everything falls apart, you're left, without masks, without certainties, without ground. And this can be scary, but it can also be the beginning of a truer life. A life where you no longer need to pretend, where you can live with more presence, with more kindness, with more courage. Because when everything falls apart, you finally understand that nothing was guaranteed. And because of this, each new day, each new chance, each small detail gains value. Collapse, when viewed with eyes of wisdom, is a gift in disguise. It's the point where everything begins anew. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Why do we insist on controlling the uncontrollable? The truth is uncomfortable. We control almost nothing. And yet, we keep trying. We plan every detail, create perfect routines, idealize relationships, project the future as if life would obey our will. And when something goes off plan, an illness, a loss, a sudden change, we feel indignant, as if the world has betrayed us. But the question Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche invites us to ask is simple and straightforward. If everything is impermanent, why do we still try to control what cannot be controlled? Control is a comfortable illusion. It gives a sense of security, but it's a false sense of security. Because life never promised stability. The flow of things is what keeps everything alive, and resisting this flow only generates frustration, fear, and anxiety. The desire for control is born of fear of the unknown. Fear of loss, fear of suffering, and this fear makes us want to imprison life in a box, as if we could freeze the good moments and avoid any kind of pain. But reality always slips through our fingers. Time passes, people change, the unexpected happens. And in the face of this, we have two options: continue fighting the river or learn to float with it. Chagdud reminds us that wisdom is accepting the flow of impermanence, not resist it. The mind that tries to control everything is a mind at constant war, but the mind that accepts what cannot be controlled finds peace, even in storms. Controlling the uncontrollable exhausts us. It turns us into rigid, anxious, demanding people, with ourselves and others. We live with the false belief that if we try hard enough, we'll guarantee a happy ending. But life doesn't work by effort or merit. It works by flow. And in this flow, things come and go, with or without our permission. Learning to live with this is learning to trust. Trusting that even when something is out of your control, you can handle whatever comes. Trusting that life doesn't have to follow your plan to teach you what you need to learn. And above all, trusting that the solidity you seek outside, in control, can only be found within, in the awareness that watches everything change. Control is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you hold it, the faster it escapes. But if you relax, surrender, it molds itself to you. It's the same with life. When you let go of control, it doesn't mean giving up. It means making room for the new, for the unexpected, for the real. Because when you stop fighting what is, you begin to see what has always been there. The freedom to live with presence, with acceptance, with love. Letting go of controlling the uncontrollable is an act of courage. And it is in this act that peace begins to emerge. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and leave your like 6. Only those who accept the end live in the now. Most people live as if they have plenty of time. They put off important conversations, leave sincere feelings for later, and put off decisions, as if life would wait, as if time were available. But it isn't. And this is a frightening truth. The end is certain, even if the time is uncertain. And that's precisely why Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche teaches us. Accepting the end is the only way to live the now fully. As long as we deny the end, we waste the present, because we think there will be another chance, another encounter, another opportunity. But when we accept that everything has an end, including us, the now becomes sacred. Truly living requires courage to face death, our own and that of all we love. Not as something morbid, but as a reminder of the preciousness of life. When you know something can end, you take better care of it. You pay more attention. You give yourself more sincerely. Impermanence doesn't take away the beauty of things. It creates that beauty. It's the end that gives meaning to the beginning. It's the limited time that transforms ordinary moments into eternal memories. The now is the only place where life truly happens. But we can only be present when we stop running from the idea that this moment will pass. The mind that lives in later is always lost. So I resolve, so I embrace, so I change. And that later never comes, because time waits. And one day, when we look back, we realize that later has become never. Living in the now is an act of rebellion against the illusion of eternity. It's looking at the person you love and thinking, what if today is the last time I see them? Not to generate fear, but to generate presence, to generate surrender, to remember that life is not guaranteed, and that this is precisely what makes it so valuable. Those who accept the end live more truthfully. Chagdud didn't preach cold detachment, but rather a mature awareness. Accepting the end is also accepting the fragile beauty of everything that exists. It's living with more tenderness, more gratitude, more patience. It's knowing that everything changes, everything passes, everything ends, And yet it's all worth it, because every moment is a rare jewel, every encounter, a blessing. Every gesture of affection, a unique opportunity. Only those who accept the end have the urgency to live, the urgency to love, the urgency to be whole in the now. And it is in this now, so fleeting and precious, that life truly happens. The secret of those who live in peace. Have you ever noticed that there are people who seem at peace even when everything around them is falling apart? It's not that they don't suffer, feel pain, or face loss. They simply react differently, as if they've discovered something most haven't yet. Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche points the way. The secret of these people is the full acceptance of impermanence. They don't resist what changes. They don't fight what passes. They don't cling to what can't be maintained. And because of this, they live lighter, more open, more present. What seems like strength is actually surrender. It's wisdom. It's trust in the simple truth that nothing lasts forever. And that's okay. This peace doesn't come from complicated practices or an unattainable spirituality. It comes from a decision to see reality as it is, not as we wish it were. Those who live in peace have accepted that things begin and end, that people come and go, that joy comes and goes, that the body ages, that even thoughts are fleeting, and instead of fighting it, they learn to dance with this movement. It's not that they don't suffer, but they suffer less. Because the suffering that crushes us is that of resistance. It's the mind saying, this shouldn't be happening. But those who understand impermanence already know. Everything that happens is exactly what needs to happen for transformation to emerge. The secret also lies in how these people view time. While most people live waiting to get there, achieve something, fix everything, have all the answers, those who understand impermanence know there is no there. There is only now. The present moment becomes everything. The journey, not the destination, becomes the sacred experience. This completely changes the way they live. Every breakfast, every simple conversation, every sunset becomes a gift. These people don't need great achievements to feel fulfilled. They see the richness of the ordinary, because they know that tomorrow, none of this can be here. This peace that seems unattainable is, in fact, accessible to all of us. It arises from the choice to live with open eyes, an open heart, and feet firmly planted in reality. Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche showed that true spiritual practice is not about withdrawing from life, but about delving deeper into it. Seeing impermanence in everything is not about losing hope. It is about finding freedom. And those who understand this find a peace that is independent of circumstances, but rather of clear vision. The secret of those who live in peace lies not in what they possess or what they avoid, but in what they understand. And this understanding begins with the simple yet powerful act of accepting that everything passes, and yet, everything is worthwhile. 8. The beauty hidden in goodbye. Goodbye is frightening. It carries with it a sense of end, of loss, of emptiness. Whether it's saying goodbye to someone, to a phase of life, to a dream, or to an old version of ourselves, it hurts. And often we avoid this moment at all costs. But Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche invites us to take a closer look. Because there is a hidden beauty in goodbye that only reveals itself to those who have the courage to look with an open heart. It's not an obvious beauty. It's not comfortable, but it's true. Goodbye teaches us more about love than 1,000 words. It reveals what was important, what was real, what was lived fully. Goodbye exposes the fragility of life, and therefore its value. Saying goodbye is a sacred ritual. It's the moment when impermanence materializes before us, and instead of denying it, we can embrace it. We can look at what's gone with gratitude, with reverence, with the feeling that, despite the pain, it was worth it. Saying goodbye forces us to let go. But this act of letting go is what makes room for the new. Nothing can be born where we are still clinging to what's gone. Goodbye is the bridge between what we were and what we are becoming. And if looked at with attentive eyes, it transforms us profoundly, because it teaches us about presence, about time, about truth. The beauty of goodbye also lies in the connection it reveals. Often, only when we say goodbye do we realize how much something meant. Absence highlights importance, and this doesn't have to be sad, it can be a celebration, an acknowledgement that something was special, that left its mark, that left its roots. Goodbye is the final period that gives meaning to the sentence. Without it, the story remains open, shapeless. With it, everything takes shape, and so, we can move on. Light, honoring what has passed, but not trapped by it. Because as Rinpoche teaches, the true goodbye is not the end, but a way to continue with more awareness. When we learn to see the beauty hidden in goodbye, life changes. We begin to live with more presence, more kindness, more love, because we know that everything can end. And that's precisely why every moment matters. Goodbye ceases to be just pain, it becomes a teacher. A living reminder that impermanence is not an enemy, but an ally. It teaches us to care, to value, to be grateful. And when this understanding enters our hearts, the fear of loss diminishes, because we realize that nothing is truly lost. What was truly experienced remains, not in form, but in essence. And that essence, no one can take away. Ultimately, everything we've experienced here has been an invitation to look at life with new eyes. A call to stop, breathe, and realize that we're all walking on the same fragile and temporary ground of existence. Every moment that passes, every breath, every emotion that arises and disappears, everything is reminding us that nothing here is guaranteed, but everything can be deeply experienced, and it is precisely in this understanding that true transformation is born. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is ready to awaken, ready to release the weight of control, attachment, and resistance, ready to live with more lightness, with more wisdom, with more presence. Chagdud Tulku Rinpoche's teachings are not a distant ideal. They are a real, possible, accessible path. But they require courage, the courage to look within, to let go, to accept, to love even knowing that everything can change at any moment. And if this content made sense to you, if it touched you in any way, I invite you, from the bottom of my heart, to subscribe to the channel here. We will continue to delve deeper into these topics with truth, respect, and humanity. Each video offers a new opportunity to reflect, awaken, and grow. And your presence makes all the difference. Because together, even amidst impermanence, we can build something truly worthwhile. A life with more awareness, and a world with more compassion. See you in the next video. And remember, everything passes, and that is exactly what makes everything so precious.